the most important piece of advice that made me and my children connect better was one of my ex-husband's friends, actually. My children were 12. I've got twins. They were 12, and he said, oh, my parents were 12. I was 12 when my parents split up. And the one thing that was really important for him was to feel involved and to feel like he mattered. And so every single house that we went to see, every single time we made a change, we sat down with the children and we made sure that we spoke to them about everything. And even if you do it in your own way, where you're going to look at houses and you think, no, that's not for me, and you don't tell them, you go and see the houses that you really like with them, but you do things that include them to make them feel important. It's made such a massive difference. And now my children talk to me so much more. And they're so much more open about their feelings. And even if I help people to release trapped emotions in my job now, but helping my children to just be able to express themselves and me be able to express myself freely. We've got such an incredibly close relationship now because of that.
Welcome to Single Parent Success Stories, a podcast designed to inspire single parents. Here you'll find resources from self-care to finances to parenting and everything in between. Discover what it takes to thrive. Let the stories inspire you to what is possible. Hello and welcome to Single Parent Success Stories. Today we have a special guest joining us from the UK, Karena Sophia. She's a mindset, manifestation and transformation coach. She helps people release trapped emotions and raise their vibration so that they can manifest their biggest dreams in health, wealth, relationships, and life purpose. She was married for 17 years in a relationship where she didn't communicate, or they didn't communicate, and then divorced 5 years ago. She found herself. She learned to regulate her emotions. She left her 9-to-5 job as a single parent to live her purpose, helping other people so that they can live a life without regrets. Welcome, Karena. It is a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. That was a lovely welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. So please share with us your story. How did you become a single parent?
Okay, so I'd been married. I met my husband when we were only 20. I'd literally just split up with someone else. And I was going through a few issues financially with my parents. I'd just moved out of my parents' home, but only a few weeks later, our home was repossessed. And my ex-husband, his brother unfortunately passed away. And I didn't realize at the time, but when we got together, I realize now Dr. Bradley Nelson talks about that we don't meet people that we like or that we just, want to be with. We meet people and we are attracted to people based on trauma and based on emotional blocks and beliefs. So at the time that we got together, I felt like, oh, we were exactly what we needed. And then as time went on, I started to realize I only wanted to have children. And that was like my one focus. I just wanted children. I thought that was the life that I wanted to live. And that was all I needed. And then as the children started getting older, they were starting to be like 10, 11. I would go places. Like I used to take my children to the gym. And we joined a gym for them to go to as well. We all went together. They went to different clubs, and my ex-husband would just go out running, and we started to just really drift, and we weren't communicating particularly anyway. I mean, we just got to a point where we were doing a big house build, a big extension on a property. And we were just not aligning, not seeing each other very much. And my daughter walked in and we were arguing, and she just said, please don't argue, and that was it. And I was just like, that's it, we can't do this because I grew up in a household of arguments and I absolutely did not want that for my children. And I just said to him then that we need to separate, we need to divorce. We're not supposed to be together really. We don't align, we don't like doing the same things. It was more like we just kind of needed each other and we carried on and carried on. And you don't realize until 17 years of not really connecting really strongly together. And then we were doing this big extension on the property. And because we'd made this decision, we'd done it as we were halfway through the build. So we had to wait for everything to be finished. And then this was 2018, towards the end of 2018. By the time we'd finished it, COVID had just hit. And we tried to put the house on the market. And it ended up that we were together in the same house for over 2 years after we decided to separate. So it was quite a challenge. We had to live in the same house through COVID and through all that time. Actually, it was better for the children, though, to be perfectly honest. We didn't tell them straight away. It gave us both time to adjust and it gave the children time to adjust. So, I mean, they knew something was wrong because we were in separate bedrooms, separate bathrooms. We didn't eat together. They clearly knew, but it was a challenge. So because of that challenge, I got to a point where I was like, I can't keep living like this. Like he would slam doors and you just get really frustrated. And I was frustrated as well. So that was what really threw me into my spiritual awakening to go, right, something's got to change. I really can't keep doing this.
And what helped you in your journey?
I started off visualizing. So one of the things was I didn't have enough money to be able to buy a house by myself, and my children had been used to living in a big 4-bedroom property. So I started off following a spiritual master called Master Sri Akashna, and I started reading Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks, Asking It Is Given. And as I was visualizing my new home, and I said to myself, right, I'm going to manifest £30,000. That's what I want as a deposit. And then I'll be able to buy a decent sized house so that the children have got their own bedroom. We're not having too much adjustments. And it took about 2 to 3 months around that time. And I had no idea how I was going to get the money. There wasn't enough in the property. And in that time, by the time we're going to sell, I'd got 31,000. So the visualizing absolutely worked incredibly well. I started following my spiritual master. I moved to this house. And then while I was in this house, then I started just learning a lot more. I felt like the most important piece of advice that made me and my children connect better was one of my ex-husband's friends. Actually, my children were 12. I've got twins. They were 12, and he said, oh, my parents were 12. I was 12 when my parents split up, and the one thing that was really important for him was to feel involved and to feel like he mattered. And so every single house that we went to see, every single time we made a change, we sat down with the children and we made sure that we spoke to them about everything. And even if you do it in your own way, where you're going to look at houses and you think, no, that's not for me, and you don't tell them, you go and see the houses that you really like with them, but you do things that include them to make them feel important. It's made such a massive difference. And now my children talk to me so much more, and they're so much more open about their feelings. And even if I help people to release trapped emotions in my job now, but helping my children to just be able to express themselves and me be able to express myself freely. We've got such an incredibly close relationship now because of that.
Was there any book that helped you along the way, that kind of inspired you to transform?
I mean, there were a few books, to be honest. I really like Dr. Joe Dispenza's Change Your Brain, Change Your Mindset. But there were a lot of things that I did along the way. One of the first things, the most important things actually, is really simple changes to awaken kind of the solar plexus area, which is all about happiness, was just to go outside. What during COVID, there was a lot of like compressed feelings, like you can't do this, you can't do that. And to just be able to spend as much time outside, grounding myself, having fun in the sunshine and eating healthy, drinking water, doing the things that like taking care of myself first and then taking care of the children. I think that's one of the things that I've probably gone through a lot of my life not doing. And so as soon as I started to do that, then I kind of went through this process of I learned how to balance my chakras. I learned Reiki. Learned energy healing, and then I would go on to different things. So I moved on to hypnosis and rapid transformational therapy, which is with Marissa Peer. And she talks a lot about beliefs and she's the, as people know her, you are enough lady. That she talks about we all have a deep ingrained belief, deep down, of I don't deserve happiness, or I don't deserve this, or I'm not enough. And so when I started to do hypnosis and started to change that part of me to believe that I was worthy of actually being happy and putting myself first and just making time for myself, that was the biggest shift for me. Because I think so many people will go through this guilt phase of I don't feel good enough to find love, or I don't feel good enough to go and take a risk like leaving my 9 to 5 job like I did. When actually, if you start to just small steps, small changes, and putting yourself first, even if it's for half an hour a day, or the more you put yourself first and the more you believe in yourself, the stronger you are for your children. It's like that oxygen mask thing when they say, put your own oxygen mask on first and then deal with the rest. And I think one phrase that I heard was really quite pivotal for me, that someone said, if you squeeze an orange, you'll only ever get orange juice from it. You'll never get apple juice. And that's how we work. So we have loads of trapped emotions within us because we don't know how to process emotions. And we're not taught how to process emotions as children. We're told to be quiet, sit down, don't cry, don't do this, don't feel. And so it's really hard for us, especially going through a divorce and a really, really emotional time, to actually express that. And so what happens with us, like if you squeeze an orange, only orange juice comes out. If we're full of guilt and someone irritates us or squeezes us or triggers us, guilt will come out. And as that guilt comes out, you then create behaviors as a mother, especially as a single mother, and you feel like I'm doing this all alone, or father, I'm doing this alone, but I feel guilty. You start to then create behaviors that are in relation to that guilt and not setting boundaries, allowing your children to just do things because you feel guilty, because you feel bad for them, because you've gone through this difficult emotional situation. Or the same if you've got anger inside, someone squeezes you, someone irritates you, anger is what comes out, and that's how you express yourself. So hypnosis and EFT tapping were two of the main things that really impacted my life quite significantly, because they helped me to be able to just process my emotions. It's difficult, obviously, on a podcast to explain emotional freedom technique tapping, but it's basically where you tap on certain points in your body, on the side of the eyebrows and on the side of the hand. And this is where these are like acupuncture points or acupressure points, like the Chinese meridian. And this is where we store our emotions. So as you're tapping on these points, if you just say certain phrases like, is something triggering you or irritating you, or this is really getting on my nerves at the moment, and you just acknowledge those feelings. There's the side of the hand is called the karate chop point. That's if you were literally to just do a karate chop onto something, and the part that hits the brick or the wood or whatever it is, the table, that side of your hand can really awaken your emotions and your deep subconscious feelings. And so, if you were to just start tapping on the side of your hand and just initially acknowledge how you feel, it really does help to bring up those feelings, to bring up those thoughts, to bring up those emotions, to be able to process them and release them instead of holding on to them, holding on to the anger, holding on to the guilt. And that was a massive, massive shift. And that's what now I was able to manifest enough money and to be able to have this home, to be able to have enough money to be able to set aside to set up my business, to leave my job by processing these emotions. And the easier you process the emotions, you get rid of the anxiety, the fears, the faster you manifest. So it's all linked. And a lot of people will talk about manifestation as just visualize, just do this, and that's enough. And it's nowhere near enough. I'm sure you're aware because you've done loads of work with this, Irina.
You're right. You're right. Emotions all just want to be felt and then let go and release. And unfortunately, we hold on to them for dear life and carry them like a prized possession.
Yeah, we
then
do.
Wonder why we are so miserable.
Yeah, but the reason is, I mean, the human mind is pretty clever. It works in a way to help us. But a lot of people, I usually explain manifestation in the way that a lot of people don't explain it this way, but I think of us as being like three different parts to us. So we have a conscious mind, and the conscious mind wants to set goals, wants to move forward, wants to do things. And then we have a subconscious and we have our higher self. And the subconscious, by the time we're age 35, is around 85 to 95% of our mind. That is our protector. So that's where we store all of our beliefs and store all of these emotions. And the reason we're holding on to these emotions is because it's helping us, it's protecting us, it's saying, hang on a minute, you've done something before similar to this. Let's hold on to these emotions to remember and to remind yourself not to do that again. And it is really important that we acknowledge that and say, thank you for protecting me, but I'm not 5 anymore. I don't need to hold on to these emotions. I can let them go. And the reason we get triggered is because this other part of us, the higher mind, or what other people might call the superconscious or the soul has a different job of, I just want to experience life. And so when we come to earth and we come to into these commitments with people, I do strongly believe that we've created these contracts or whatever it is to say, I'm going to marry this person, I'm going to be with this person for a certain period of time to learn certain lessons. And then when those lessons are done, we'll go our separate ways and we'll separate. And that, when you can think about it in a wider perspective, and there's no more lessons to learn there anymore, that helps, I think, to let go of some of the guilt of, oh, but I didn't stay together for the children, and oh, I haven't stayed together financially, and now I don't have as much support financially. And you're able to just say, those were the lessons I needed to learn. They were learned. It's okay now for me to move on with my life and to find somebody else, or to live a certain amount of time by myself, finding myself, working on myself, loving myself. And so, yeah, the subconscious mind is the majority of our minds and controlling our behaviors. And it is there to protect us, and it is really important. But the way that we manifest and the way that we move forward is to align the conscious and the subconscious and the higher self or the superconscious, and to be able to say, these are my conscious goals. I've got these conscious goals for a reason, because that's aligned with my higher self. It's got to have come from somewhere. I only want it for a reason. Then we have to work with the subconscious to say, what does my protector not want me to do? Why am I not moving forward? And so this is what I do with my clients now is to work with hypnosis and EFT tapping to awaken the subconscious. What are these beliefs and what are these feelings that I'm holding on to? That the protector side of me, the protector part of me, is trying to prevent me from moving forward, and just acknowledge it instead of like fighting against it, because lots of people will do that with, oh no, I don't want to feel that way. Don't feel the feelings, move away from it, run away from it. Instead, just acknowledge it's okay, I've got these feelings. And journaling is a brilliant thing. And that when I started journaling, that made a big difference to me as well. Even just the experience of being able to write down how you feel and say it out loud, you're expressing it, and so you're acknowledging it, and it will get you used to acknowledging it. How about you? How did you have your spiritual awakening? Is there any particular tool that you've used?
Also, there have been many tools along the way, but first I came to a point where I realized I could no longer live the way I was living. I was constantly rushing, dropping kids off into different places and rushing to catch the train to work. And one day I was late by a minute, and I got so pissed off from that, and I kind of started sobbing and crying and asking myself, do we just come here to suffer? What's the point of life anyway? I felt like I was always rushing, but I never felt I was feeling alive. Like I was getting closer to my death, but I never didn't feel like I was living. And that kind of started the journey. And the greatest thing that happened as a result, I learned how to sing. I was able to sing, but I couldn't speak. I also joined Toastmasters, and it allowed me to speak and find my voice. And then other tools along the way for mindset, I was neurolinguistic programming, timeline therapy, and hypnotherapy, just like yourself, dealing with subconscious beliefs and releasing them. Timeline therapy helps in that regard as well, getting to the source of the problem and
Yeah.
looking at your life as not as opposed to a set of like bad things and why did this happen to me, but looking and getting lessons from your past, positive lessons that we can take from ourselves and then take better decisions in the future. So that had been really been transformational in my journey and hypnosis as well. And then wellness, I believe we are holistic beings, so we got to take care of all of our needs, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it is creating habits in all those areas that sustain us instead of drain us, starting with our mindset, because it all begins there, how we view ourselves. And just like you said, I also read a lot of books as well, and familiar with Marisa Peer's work about, the RTT and the You Are Enough. I love her book, Tell Yourself Better Lies.
Yeah.
We constantly tell ourselves lies that are not serving us. What if we say a good lie that can be beneficial? And believe in that little by little, building ourselves up. So I learned all of that, and it's been a tremendous help, viewing life from a different perspective and realizing what is possible instead of just seeing everything in black and white, but being able to see the shades of colors. And another thing I think that's important is doing the thing that sets your soul on fire.
Yeah.
I wrote a little piece, I contributed to a book, it was Total Health for Extraordinary Living. And my piece was 10 minutes of joy. Practicing flexing the happiness muscle. We often think of our health in terms of, physical, what we eat, how we move, but what about our happiness? What about our joy? And I recommend for people to practice 10 minutes of joy every day. No, whatever
Yeah. I
sets your
mean,
soul on fire, just do it.
yeah, that aligns with that Abraham Hicks as well. That Asking It Is Given was the first book that I read really about spirituality. And I started to watch some YouTube videos of Abraham. And she'd only have like 10, 15-minute slots, and where she'd have a massive audience. People would come and ask her questions. And a lot of the time, their whole answer right at the end of the sentence would just be, just get happy. and and so she lives by that when you are happy, when you've released all this fear, when you've released the anxiety, you've released the emotions, the anger, the guilt, and all of these things, and you just live in a state of happiness, it is so much easier for you to be able to align with what you want to align with, what feels, what lights your soul, because this is what life is all about, that we don't realize actually the purpose of life. So many people are just, I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll be happy when I have a relationship. I'll be happy, or I'll do this and I'll get that. And actually, just you have the ability to just get happy now. And what is the point in having all this money? What is the point in having the great big house? What is the point in having the relationship if actually you're not happy first? And that's a massive thing.
Yeah, yeah. I decided to be happy again after
Yeah.
my divorce.
And that's what Tony Robbins says, isn't it? It's a decision. You make a decision
Yes.
and then you live your life by that decision. And that decision to start with, yeah, is I'm just going to choose to be happy today, or I'm choosing to see the good. Like I follow Bashar, who he's on TikTok and Instagram, and
Mhm.
his channels an entity, so it's pretty woo woo. But he talks about how like we create beliefs and why we hold on to beliefs and everything. If we don't have something, it's because we fear having it, and so the subconscious mind is stopping us from getting there because there's a part of us that's protecting us and thinks that something might go wrong. But his philosophy, his whole teaching is all about act on your highest excitement for as long as possible. And you will get there and you will push through the fear and you will move out the way, all of this resistance, whatever it is. And it's easier said than done. But it's true that when you're acting on your highest excitement, sometimes people will say, oh, I don't know how to make a decision, or I've got that way to go, or I've got that way to go. And the easiest way to make the decision is, well, what lights you up the most? Because you can't go wrong when you're following what lights you up the most. And that's what led me to leaving my 9 to 5 job and doing this. That actually, I'm staying in a job that I'm earning a set amount. Yes, I know I've got my bills paid, but it doesn't light me up anymore.
Yeah.
And so when you have that courage to just leave and say, no, I'm going to take a risk. I thought when I first set up my business, no, I'm not going to leave that 9 to 5 job until I've got a set amount of money in the bank and I've got a set amount of clients. And I just went, no, it's time. That's it. And when you take that risk and you follow your highest excitement, there's no other way to describe it other than just peace and freedom, the freedom that you feel to just be able to go off on your own, doing what really feels right for your soul, to move in that direction. I'm sure you feel exactly the same.
Yeah. It was interesting. I left my 9 to 5 and I became a writer 5 months later.
Wow, that's so exciting.
I had a dream of becoming a writer back, I don't know, 6, 7, or maybe already 8 years ago. And it came to be as a result of this podcast because I met a publisher who was a single parent who in kind of we spoke. She invited me to be in her book. It was a collaboration.
Which is exactly what happens, isn't it? When you start following your passion and you just carry on acting on your highest excitement, the universe just sends you opportunities and you need to be open to receiving them, which is why I help people to release the trapped emotions, because it does block us sometimes from being open to accept that help from people. But the universe is sending people, situations, opportunities. Sometimes I'll just open my phone and see something, a YouTube video, and I needed to see that message that day. And you think, oh, that's my next step. And that is what manifestation is all about, just guiding, being guided by the universe, but guiding yourself really through your passion and through your excitement, and trusting that the people that are in front of you and the people that are along your path are there to support you and to guide you. And That's amazing. That's a really good example of, oh, this person led to this person. And but if I think about my journey, yeah, the people that I started with, I did a course with Bob Proctor. I ended up doing a course with Tony Robbins, and then I was a bit like, well, they're all very masculine energy, drive, 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 move forward, move forward. That wasn't me. I was way more in my emotions. So then I moved more towards Marissa Peer, who's, oh, let's work on getting rid of those emotions and acknowledging those. But I may not have got there if I hadn't found these other people first. So
That's,
everything is leading you to different places, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. The other day, a year ago, actually, I did like a little. I drew a picture, and it looked like how you call it, a tapestry of stars, like a constellation. How each person brings you to your next step, and how you were able to kind of, oh, what happened here, and only kind of you don't know that in advance, but once you go through your journey and looking back, it looks just like a star constellation of people who help you realize your dream, or who help you, get connected to that next person. And it was incredible.
Yeah, that's a really good way of explaining it. I could say that about a partner that I had actually. I the only relationship that I've had has been like in the 5 years for 5 months. Um, I did manifest him. It was great. I put a picture of him on my vision board. I was journaling, scripting out exactly what I wanted. And um, this guy, as soon as I put this picture on my vision board, I put the picture on him. Okay, I was following him on Instagram. Put the picture of him on my vision board. 5 days later, he started messaging me. And I didn't think it would be him, but I was like, what? So then I got into a relationship with him, and having the children, they just did not get on. And now I realize that firstly, what I was manifesting was superficial. It was quite superficial things like I wanted someone to have the same interests as me. I wanted someone to go to the gym with me. I wanted someone to like go out for dinner with me and do not all these nice things and treat me nicely. He was a very nice person. But I would go to the gym because I wanted to go with him and I wanted to feel fit. And he would go to the gym because he wanted to be muscly and spend 3 hours there. And we kind of didn't align. And instead of thinking about actually what values do I want in a partner and what are his life goals and what are my life goals, and why don't I just script that and journal that and ask the universe for that instead of these superficial things, then maybe I would have manifested someone a little bit more aligned to me. But I needed to go through that because the situation with my children, it really taught me they were quite resentful at times when I was with him. And even when he was here, they would say, oh, he's just always here. And I think, well, I don't understand why you're being like that. And then it wasn't until after the point of him not being here anymore that they started to talk more about it wasn't the fact that he was here, it was the fact that I wasn't spending as much time with just them. And so that first piece of advice of include them, make them feel important, that I was told when I first separated that I thought I was doing had drifted and had gone by the wayside when I started to be with somebody else and created that partnership with someone. And so what I learned from that was it's fine for me to have a relationship and I'm ready to have another relationship. But now I've done so much self healing and self love that I won't accept someone else not fitting into my family. And I won't accept I need to spend all my time with that person now that I know what's important to my children, that I'm going to spend my time with them when it's important for us. Like they're just about to take their exams. They have 7 weeks of exams in the UK now, between now and the end of June. And I have twins, so I have two of them. So we're going to go through a pretty stressful time. But this is a really important time for them. So I need to make sure that they come first at the times when they need to come first. And that is a lesson that I needed to go through with that relationship that I will learn for the next one, that yeah, they need their time and they matter to me. They're a massive part of my life, at least for the next few years. They're 16, but maybe not that much longer. They probably need a lot more time when they're younger, but I will only now accept a man who comes into our lives and accepts that they are important and I need time alone with them. But as girls, and I'm a woman, we need our girly time together without a man around.
That's right. That's right. What practices can someone do to find new love?
I personally did find scripting very, very effective. I would just say script every day for a month or so and write a list of what were the qualities that you had in a partner before that you really liked, and what were the qualities that you had in a partner that you really didn't like. And so when you start analyzing the people that you've attracted into your life, start to ask questions around why did I attract that particular person? Like I've done neuropsychology, studied neuropsychology and behavior of people, and I realize now there's a lot of people who will be quite anxious, an anxious attachment style. And an anxious attachment style will often create a need or a desire for someone who is avoidant, emotionally avoidant. And so the reason that these two people will come together, this anxious attachment and the emotional avoidant, is to learn from each other, to grow the soul. And so when you write down, oh yeah, I did have someone before who was emotionally unavailable, I don't want that again. When you can write it down and acknowledge it, and you can start to look at yourself and your own behaviors, and did I attract that because I was anxious and I needed them? Then you can start to release your own emotions and the parts of you and heal the parts of you that don't want that. So it's just as important to have a list of things that you do want, as well as the list of things that you don't want. You don't focus on what you don't want, but you just analyze what was it about those things that brought that person into my life, and then totally write this list, journal, script every day. I'm so happy and grateful now that I have this wonderful, emotionally available man or partner or who values me. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I want to be wined and dined and someone to take me out for dinner and whatever these goals are, but has the same life values and things like that. And the more you do that, the more you're getting it into your subconscious that I deserve that. And that's what I'm going to get. And the good thing about doing it daily is you'll realize the first time you do it, the next day, oh, you've got more on the list. And then the next day, oh, I forgot about that. And it would be like, I wanted someone, I've always wanted to learn a foreign language, and I wanted someone who spoke Spanish. I specifically wrote that. And the partner that I had was Colombian. And so you can get exactly what you want if you script, but I would work on what are the reasons for wanting that as well, and write down because I'm so happy and grateful now that I have someone who goes to the gym with me, because we get to spend so much quality time together, because we love exercising together, because whatever that, and the because was the part that I missed.
Yeah, digging down to the real reason why you want something, not just stating why, like that you want it. It's
Yes.
like they say, when they manifest, oh, I want, let's say, X amount of money, but why do you want the money? What are you gonna do? And then the 7-layer why exercise, when ask yourself the why question 7 times until you really get down to the deep real reason behind all of those. Super.
Yeah, and the real reason is usually a feeling. It's a feeling that you want to feel when you have that person. So stepping into the identity of that person who already has those things is the fastest way, the most important way to be able to manifest. Because once you know what it is that you want, you then look at that list or that whatever it is that you've written out and think about how would that person behave. So if I want someone who goes to the gym and I want to attract that into my life, then I kind of need to step into that person now that is going to the gym, and not say, oh, I'll do it when, or I'll be happy when. If you want someone in your life to bring happiness to you and equal your happiness, you need to get happy now.
That's right.
And if you want someone who's healthy, you need to be happy now. You need to be healthy now. And then you'll attract that into your life. So thinking about that person, we're always thinking about it in the future, but actually it already exists. If you can imagine it now, you can have it now. What would that person be doing? What time would they be getting up in the morning? What practices would they be doing? What would they be wearing? Where would they be going? You want to attract someone into your life that is conscious. I've just realized we have a new conscious bar in our area that I've only just discovered this.
Oh.
A non-alcoholic bar that sells like non-alcoholic beverages for conscious people, spiritual people. So go to festivals, fairs, wherever you want to go. If you want to find someone fit, go to the gym. Go to the places and go out of your way to take the action to find that person in the places that they're going to be. Don't just sit at home and hope that they're going to knock on the door, because it's unlikely unless you want an Amazon delivery driver.
This is so true.
But so many of us do, don't we? We dwell on so many things and say, oh, well, where is he? Where is she? Where are they? Why aren't they appearing in my life? And they might appear in your life through social media. You don't know. But you've got to be on social media to find someone on social media. And you've got to be portraying yourself as you are, as you want to be seen, to attract someone authentic. And so everything that you do, your actions, your thoughts, your beliefs, everything needs to align. And the way you do that is to step into that identity, but first write it down. Just be absolutely clear. Oh yeah, I had someone who just went out to the pub every night and didn't speak to me and drank loads of alcohol. Well, what are you doing? And did you put up with that?
Right. I think we are like little transmitters constantly emitting the
Yeah.
the people we want to attract. So if you want to attract somebody, be the person who you want to be, and then you'll find them.
That's it. That's absolutely the key to everything.
What do you think is the most important trait to instill in a child?
I remember Gary Vaynerchuk having this amazing post on social media where someone said, how do I protect my daughter from social media trolling and things like that? And he said, strengthen their self-esteem, because that's the only thing you need to do, is to strengthen their self-esteem, because nobody can get to them. If they have strong self-esteem, they will then set boundaries. They will then feel safe to speak up. They will then be able to express themselves properly. They will then be able to follow their passion. So however you do that, and it's not easy. I remember when I first started hypnotherapy and my daughter was so against it. One of them is quite laid back and the other is very much like, you're not using me as a social experiment. That's what she said to me. Okay, then we won't do hypnotherapy. so then we try tapping, and then we try, do you know what? Just keep telling them how blooming amazing they are. And the more you tell them, the more they will start to see it for themselves. And even if it's the small things with, oh, your hair looks good today, or like, those are the things that a teenager especially, focuses on. And you can't ignore that, even though really it's not what's important. What's important is to make sure that they still also know, well done for trying hard. Thank you for helping me around the house. Thanks for emptying the dishwasher, or just validating them, appreciating them, and allowing them to just feel the way that they feel. Sometimes I'll say, oh, give me a hug. I really want a hug. And they'll go, no, I don't want a hug. That's not me. And I have to accept, okay, you have set boundaries and that's okay. Despite the fact that I want a hug, I just have to say, okay, I appreciate you. I validate you. I accept you as you are. And just keep building them up as much as you possibly can, and you won't go wrong. It doesn't matter what you say to them, as long as it's authentic. You don't want to tell them a load of rubbish. But I mean, I'm not massively in agreement with their exams at the moment, having 7 weeks of exams, working really hard. And I just keep saying to them, look, there's another Bashar quote, and he says, I am myself, and that is enough. And you keep saying that to yourself, and you keep saying that to them. You are yourself, you are you, and that is enough. And they will start to hear it, and they will start to believe it. And the difference that I've seen in my children, last year my daughter went to her Spanish speaking exam, and she didn't want to sit the exam, and she was adamant that I'm not doing it. And this time she's gone in with massive confidence, and the teacher's saying, oh my God, you absolutely smashed it, and you've done this. And it's purely helping them to believe in themselves, because even though I know we all have these beliefs of I am not enough, and I'm not deserving, we can't get inside their heads constantly from being a baby and make them feel a different way. And I certainly can't force my child to do hypnotherapy to feel a different way. But you can keep telling them that they are enough and that they're amazing as they are. They don't need to get certain grades to feel good. The purpose of doing this is for them, for themselves, to see what they want to focus on and what brings them joy and what are their passions. It's not, and I will never reward them for a certain grade, for doing something a certain way, when actually it's irrelevant to me, and they need to know that I will absolutely love them regardless.
So true. You're right. Right. Self-esteem is very, very important. And we got to do everything and anything possible to instill that in them.
Yeah, and I think just giving them a little, allowing them to feel in control. Sometimes I've had some battles with one of my daughters who, especially with school, the school system is very much like they need to be in control and they want to control people. And it very much goes against our higher selves, that we don't want to be controlled. We want to be able to be free. We want to be able to express ourselves. But the way that we live in society, it wants to control us. So I would say, allow them the control of their own lives as much as they can at whatever point, and they won't need to rebel, because addictions and gambling and whatever, they all come down to a need to control. And if you allow them, even if it's they want to play with a certain toy one day and not another, let them make the choice, let them be in control, and they'll get less resistance then when you are able to say, well, you know what, actually this is a time when I really do need to be in control, and this is really important that we do this. There was a point where one of my daughters just wouldn't wear a blazer for school. And then I was talking to a friend, and I can't even believe that I didn't notice this, but I said, you know, on the days that she doesn't wear a blazer, she eats her lunch. And when she doesn't, and when she's forced to wear her blazer and wear this uniform that she doesn't want to wear, she doesn't eat. And my friend said that eating disorders and not eating or forcing yourself to eat is a form of control. And there was this light bulb moment of, oh no, I didn't even realize that. And now I look back and think, oh yeah. And that time where she said, I don't want to do that Spanish exam, I would say, okay, you make the decision. You're 16. There are certain things that you can decide yourself. If you choose that you're not going into that exam, that's entirely up to you. I just don't want you to not do it because you don't feel you're good enough, because you are good enough. And I left her with that. I walked away. 10 minutes later, she came downstairs and started revising and, and learning it, because I gave her the choice. You're in control. You make the decision yourself then. And then there's less rebellion. There's less resistance.
Totally.
That's what I've learned with twins. They're very different.
Yeah. What kind of advice can you share someone going through divorce?
Um, process your emotions as much as possible. And yeah, just acknowledge them and just allow yourself to feel sad if you want to feel sad one day, because even if it was your choice, it was my choice to get divorced. And even though it was my choice, it didn't mean I didn't still grieve, because there's still a part of your life that is going to be over. And that process of grieving that part of your life, grief is not just about losing somebody, someone passing away. Grief is an emotion that we feel of loss and the uncertainty of not knowing. And I'd say, if you're in this phase of, I'm not sure what to do, or I'm uncertain of the future, find out as much information as possible. I was always the one who paid all the bills. My ex-husband had no idea. And he was so stressed until I actually sat down with him and said, look, these are all the bills. This is how much you earn. This is how much of a mortgage you could get. These are the kind of houses you can get. This is what life could look like. It takes away so much stress, because we worry about things that we just don't know. And the unknown is scary. And that's the way that our minds work. We fear what we don't know. So give yourself as much information as possible. If you need to go and speak to a lawyer and find out your rights and your legal rights of what's the best case scenario, what's the worst case scenario, deal with that. Process the emotions of the worst case scenario, and you'll be able to handle anything.
Totally. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. If there are anything I haven't asked that you would like to share.
I think we've said a lot about focusing on yourself. And that's the main thing, really, that as a parent, it is too easy to focus on the children, to focus on what they need, and to forget about yourself. I just really want to reiterate that oxygen mask. You are a much better parent when you invest in your own self-development, when you take time out for yourself, even if it's a 30-minute walk, when you spend some time in the sun, when you eat healthy, when you get enough sleep. Focus on fixing yourself, or not that you need to be fixed, but helping yourself to feel good, to get happy. And then when you focus on yourself, you will be so much more equipped and stronger emotionally, mentally, physically, to be able to deal with whatever comes up. Because there are challenging times. I'm not going to lie and say it's all easy, but I look at it in a way that challenge is a good thing, because it helps you to grow.
That's true. We never grow from a comfort zone. We gotta
Exactly.
boundaries. If people would like to connect with you or learn more about you, where would they go?
My website is www.thegracefulhealer.co.uk, or I am the Graceful Healer on Instagram.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom and your journey and your story and your lessons. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.